crime story.
The unsolved murder of Little Miss Beauty. On the early morning of December 26, 1996, John and Patsy Ramsey were jolted awake by the absence of their 6-year-old daughter in her bed. Their distress deepened when they discovered a ransom note demanding payment for JonBenét's safe return. Despite the note's explicit instructions not to involve law enforcement, Patsy immediately dialed 911. The police arrived swiftly but overlooked a crucial detail. They failed to search the basement, where JonBenét's lifeless body was eventually discovered. This tragic incident involving a young beauty pageant contestant from an affluent family captured the attention of global news outlets in a matter of moments. The subsequent investigation evolved into one of the most prominent and perplexing unsolved cases in contemporary American history. Born on August 6, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia, JonBenét Ramsey was the cherished child of Patsy and John Ramsey. Her journey into the world of child beauty pageants began at an early age, nurtured by her mother's unwavering support. JonBenét went on to secure numerous titles, including the prestigious Little Miss Colorado crown in 1995. Patsy Ramsey, originally known as Patricia Poe, came into the world in 1956. She gained her own share of fame as a former beauty pageant contestant, clinching the title of Miss West Virginia in 1977. Following her studies at West Virginia University, Patsy achieved a bachelor's degree in journalism in 1978. 2 years later, she exchanged vows with John Ramsey, born in 1943, was notably 13 years older than Patsy. His journey led him to the United States Navy in 1966, where he served as an officer in the Corps of Engineers posted in the Philippines. In 1989, John made a significant career shift, venturing into the business world and playing a pivotal role in the inception of a company specializing in computer services for the aerospace, defense, and other sectors. John took on the responsibilities of CEO and president within the company. Before his union with Patsy, John had already been a parent to 3 children from a previous marriage, which ended due to an extramarital affair with a coworker. Following the birth of JonBenét, the Ramsey family relocated to Boulder, Colorado, primarily due to John's professional obligations. The Ramseys were notable for their affluent lifestyle, boasting ownership of 2 private jets, a yacht, and a vacation residence in Michigan. Their accumulated wealth at the time was reported to be in the vicinity of $5.9 million. Kidnapping. The evening prior, the Ramsey family had spent time at the residence of their close friends, Fleet and Priscilla White. They returned home around 10 p.m. on December 25th and, subsequently, put JonBenét to bed. On the morning of December 26th, at 5:30 a.m., the family arose to prepare for their journey to their secondary residence in Michigan, traveling by private plane. Patsy set out to make breakfast for the family, and as she stood only a few steps away from the bottom of the spiral staircase, she made a shocking discovery. There, she found a ransom note addressed to John, which demanded a sum of $118,000 in exchange for JonBenét's safe return. The note explicitly instructed her not to involve law enforcement and to remain available between 8 and 10 a.m. Upon discovering the note, Patsy's anxiety reached a breaking point. She contacted friends and, subsequently, dialed 911. The dispatcher swiftly dispatched officers to their location, who arrived promptly. However, without conducting a thorough search of the premises, they opted to await further instructions. Around 7:30 a.m., John left the house to withdraw the ransom money, returning at approximately 8 a.m. As time passed, there was still no word from the purported kidnappers. By 10 a.m., the police officers present with the Ramsey family remained without any communication. Around 10:30 a.m., most of the officers departed the scene, leaving one officer in the house. Even before the discovery of JonBenét's lifeless body, a series of investigative errors had already transpired. Only JonBenét's room was cordoned off, permitting friends and family who arrived hours later to move about the rest of the house, potentially disturbing evidence. Furthermore, informal interviews with John and Patsy were postponed by the police officers. The discovery of JonBenét's lifeless body was delayed until 1 p.m. when John and Fleet White, acting on the remaining officers' request, ventured into the basement of the residence. They found JonBenét wrapped in a blanket, with duct tape sealing her mouth, a visible injury on her head, and a nylon cord encircling her neck and arms. In a heartbreaking turn of events, John carried her lifeless form upstairs and placed it on the floor, regrettably compromising potential crime scene evidence. Subsequently, the police relocated her to a couch, where her body remained until it was collected by the coroner around 8 p.m. Ramsey family home. The Ramsey residence in Boulder was an expansive 4-story, 650-square-foot cottage boasting 5 bedrooms, multiple staircases, and an extensive basement spanning the entire lower level of the house. The basement, in turn, was subdivided into several smaller chambers. The central room, known as the hobby room, featured a large table with a toy train, a space often frequented by the children for play. The other rooms primarily served as storage areas for various items. Within the basement, there was a room with a broken window, which led the authorities to suspect that the intruder gained access to the house through this point. Additionally, underneath the broken window, a suitcase was discovered, believed to have aided the intruder's escape from the basement. JonBenét was tragically found in a room designated as a wine cellar, situated in the most remote section of the cellar. This particular room lacked windows and had a single door. Investigation. Following the autopsy, it became evident that JonBenét Ramsey had tragically succumbed to both strangulation and a fractured skull. The primary murder weapon remained elusive, although a subsequent search of the house yielded a metal baseball bat near the back door, its origin uncertain, as it could have been placed there by an unidentified party. Furthermore, a flashlight, unexpectedly discovered on the kitchen counter, raised questions, as neither John nor Patsy Ramsey could account for its presence. Intriguingly, the coroner also uncovered pineapple chunks in JonBenét's stomach. Her parents had no recollection of serving her pineapple either the evening of her demise or the night before. However, a bowl of pineapple in the kitchen bore the fingerprints of her 9-year-old brother, Burke. Yet, this revelation yielded limited insight, as Burke insisted that he had slept through the night and had not consumed pineapple in the preceding evening or night. Suspects. By 2001, the Boulder police had conducted interviews with over 600 individuals, considered approximately 140 potential suspects, and cataloged about 1,400 pieces of evidence. Yet, the question looms, why has no one been charged in connection with the JonBenét Ramsey case? The investigation must start with the recognition that the Ramsey household was notably spacious, suggesting that the perpetrator must have possessed intimate knowledge of the house's layout. Leading JonBenét from her bedroom to the basement would have required an understanding of the premises, strongly indicating that the culprit was someone familiar with the residence. Initial suspicion briefly fell upon the housekeeper, Linda Hoffman Pugh, and her spouse, both of whom were employed by the Ramseys. However, their alibis checked out, leading to their exoneration. Bill McReynolds, who had portrayed Santa Claus at the Ramseys' holiday gatherings, including one on December 23, just days before JonBenét's tragic discovery, had long been under scrutiny. Nevertheless, solid evidence implicating him in the crime remained elusive. Over the years, individuals with prior accusations of similar offenses, such as Gary Olivia, currently serving a sentence in Colorado for another crime, have also come under suspicion in the JonBenét Ramsey case. On December 26, Olivia made a cryptic call to a former classmate, hinting that he had harmed a young girl. His friend attempted to extract further details, but Olivia refused to divulge anything substantial. Another notable suspect was John Carr, residing in Thailand, who confessed to JonBenét's murder in 2006. He was subsequently extradited to the U.S., yet no compelling evidence linking him to the crime emerged. Despite a multitude of suspects, the JonBenét Ramsey murder case remains an unsolved mystery. Theories of murder by someone in the family. The initial phase of the investigation heavily centered on the Ramsey family, owing to several compelling reasons. Firstly, there were doubts surrounding the authenticity of the ransom note. It was unusually lengthy, penned with a Sharpie, and inscribed on paper sourced from within the Ramsey residence. Furthermore, the ransom amount demanded was oddly specific, closely mirroring a bonus John had recently received. Consequently, all immediate relatives, including John and Burke, were subjected to questioning, and their handwriting samples were obtained for comparison with the ransom note. John and Burke were promptly cleared of any suspicion pertaining to the note's authorship, although there were lingering concerns regarding Patsy's handwriting. The police were unable to definitively conclude her as the note's author. The ransom note remains a focal point of discussion in this case, comprising around 370 words. It was meticulously written using a Sharpie pen across 3 pages of a legal pad, with both pen and paper originating from different locations within the Ramsey home. Forensic analysis suggested that the note took at least 20 minutes to compose. If it was indeed left by the perpetrator, it indicated a chilling level of composure, as they meticulously scoured closets to find writing materials and spent roughly half an hour crafting the message. Moreover, the Ramsey family initially exhibited reluctance to cooperate with the police. They cited concerns regarding the detectives' intentions to implicate John and Patsy in the incident. Officially, the Ramsey family refrained from engaging with law enforcement for over 100 days. However, they provided their first interview to CNN on January 1, 1997. Less than a week following JonBenét's tragic death, several peculiarities emerged during the investigation, including John's assertion that he had moved JonBenét from the car to her bedroom while she slept on the evening of December 25th. Curiously, neither his DNA nor that of any other family members was detected on the girl's clothing. Detective Arndt noted that John exhibited unusual behavior, such as reading his mail while the police awaited the kidnapper's call. Certain theories have revolved around JonBenét's brother, Burke. According to these speculations, JonBenét may have ventured downstairs for a snack, encountering her brother, who was already consuming pineapple. Notably, a piece of pineapple was discovered in JonBenét's stomach, and Burke's fingerprints were present on the bowl of pineapple found on the kitchen table. It is posited that a disagreement could have arisen if she took a piece of pineapple from Burke's bowl, potentially triggering his anger and leading to an altercation. While the Burke theory remains speculative, circumstantial evidence lends it some credence. Following JonBenét's birth, she commanded the lion's share of her parents' attention, occasionally leaving Burke feeling neglected and resentful. On one occasion, during a game, he claimed to have accidentally struck his sister with a golf club, necessitating plastic surgery. The public was taken aback when it came to light that John and Patsy Ramsey promptly retained high-profile criminal defense attorneys from the law firm of Haddon, Morgan, and Foreman almost immediately after JonBenét's tragic demise. This firm, along with its partners, maintained close professional, political, and personal connections within the legal and judicial circles of Denver and Boulder, adding another layer of intrigue to the case. Amidst the extensive list of potential suspects, the media honed in on JonBenét's parents, subjecting them to years of relentless public scrutiny. Notably, in 1999, a Colorado grand jury reached a decision to indict the Ramsey family on allegations of child endangerment and obstructing a murder investigation. However, the prosecuting attorney ultimately determined that insufficient evidence existed to warrant prosecution. Consequently, JonBenét's parents were never formally charged with murder. Theories of murder by an unknown person. Simultaneously, the theory surrounding JonBenét's murder by an unidentified assailant was fortified by a significant amount of physical evidence. Adjacent to JonBenét's lifeless body, a boot print was discovered that clearly did not match any family member's footwear. Additionally, attention was drawn to a broken basement window, perceived as the most likely point of entry for the intruder. Drops of blood from an unknown male were also detected on the girl's clothing. Given the carpeted floors within the Ramsey home, it was plausible that the perpetrator had transported JonBenét downstairs without alerting the family. The potential for solving this case now hinges on the DNA sample obtained from JonBenét's clothing. This DNA profile was entered into the CODIS National DNA Database in 2003, yet, as of the present, no matching identity has been identified. In 2006, Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacey assumed control of the case, aligning with the federal prosecutor's view that the theory of an unknown perpetrator causing JonBenét's death was more credible than the notion of familial involvement. The Boulder County District Attorney's Office categorically absolves any member of the Ramsey family, including John, Patsy, or Burke, from suspicion in the case. Despite the considerable local, national, and international attention this case has garnered, allegations of family involvement, whether against the mother, father, or brother, are unsubstantiated and predominantly fueled by media speculation. In 2010, the case was officially reopened with a focus on collecting additional DNA samples. Upon further examination of JonBenét's clothing, experts discerned traces of DNA from not one, but two individuals. In 2016, it was announced that the DNA would be sent to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation for testing using more advanced techniques, with the aim of generating an even more precise DNA profile of the perpetrator. The JonBenét Ramsey case. In that same year, 2016, CBS Channel aired the documentary The JonBenét Ramsey Case, which purported that the young girl's assailant was, in fact, her 9-year-old brother, Burke. Following the film's release, Burke filed a $750 million defamation lawsuit against its creators. However, this legal dispute was resolved in 2019, with the terms of the settlement remaining undisclosed. His attorney conveyed that the case was amicably resolved to the satisfaction of all parties. The documentary also brought forth other intriguing revelations. For instance, the Ramsey family's neighbors attested that numerous lights were illuminated within the house on Christmas night and the early hours of the next day. One neighbor even claimed to have heard screams between midnight and 2 a.m. In an attempt to reenact the killer's actions, the filmmakers constructed a replica of the Ramsey house's basement and kitchen. Their aim was to replicate the intruder's actions, including an attempt to enter through a window without disturbing slumbering occupants. This reconstruction, however, proved unfeasible. As a result, the filmmakers concluded that 6-year-old JonBenét had likely been killed by someone within the family, with the strongest suspicion falling on Burke. I hope you liked this story. Please don't forget to leave a comment sharing with your thoughts below. Give a thumbs up this video, and remember to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more captivating stories. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey, and we'll see you in the next video.